an original MCM production.
It is my sincere pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Vicki Martin, President of the Milwaukee Area Technical College. In the spirit of full disclosure, I was likely given this opportunity because I am currently a member of the MATC District Board. That fact might surprise some of you. Let's be honest, I've been at times a vocal critic of the college. Technical colleges are my business's talent pipeline, and I would suspect that's true for some of you as well. Gone are the days when a high school diploma alone is enough to get a job, and certainly not a career. We are dependent upon, might I even say at the mercy of, our technical colleges to provide businesses like mine with well-trained, highly effective employees that we need to support our growth. But as my mother taught me, if you aren't part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. Dr. Vicki Martin became the 10th president of the Milwaukee Area Technical College in July of 2014. She has served the college since 1988, and prior to being named president, was executive vice president and provost. I'll admit, I was concerned at first when I learned that the new college president was someone who had spent 27 years at the college. Might she be part of the problem? I am now a believer, however, that Vicki Martin is in fact part of the solution. Dr. Martin is a realist. She knows the institution from bottom to top. She has a vision and a plan, and the promise is part of that plan. She's a good listener, a good partner, and a straight shooter. As MATC's Chief Academic Officer from 2007 to 2014, Dr. Martin helped institute key initiatives such as Career Pathways, the Faculty Innovation Center, and the Women's in Technology Center. She was MATC's Oak Creek Campus Vice President, where she led a team that oversaw the development and construction of the Center for Energy Conservation and Advanced Manufacturing, also known as ECAM, something near and dear to my heart. And you should see the heavy metal tour that they put on. It's pretty awesome. In her spare time, Dr. Martin is chairperson of the Bradley Tech School Commission. In partnership with MPS and UWM, the commission is working to restore Bradley Tech's technical education focus and commitment to providing students who have the right aptitude and attitude with exceptional training in the skilled trades and laying the foundation for our future generation of craftsmen and journeymen. Vicki holds a doctorate from UW-Madison in Education Leadership and Policy Analysis. And last but not least, Vicki is a Milwaukee native. She loves this city, she loves the college, and she loves the people. Her years at MATC have not just been a career, they have been a vocation. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Vicki Martin, President of the Milwaukee Area Technical College.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. And thank you, Mary. That was really very nice. I appreciate the support. And I know that MATC can live up to it. And we're going to start first. Before I get into my presentation, I'm going to show you a video. Well, thank you. I mean, we really believe in transforming our students, and I think you get to see that our students start at our college, and they really, truly, through the education that they receive, become transformed and lead much better lives because of us. But we began about 100 years ago, and to think I've been around for a quarter of that is really amazing to me. But we were originally formed for the forgotten children of Milwaukee. And the forgotten children of Milwaukee really meant those children who had to leave school to work in the factories and or work on the farms. And what became clear in Madison by Charles McCarthy, who was the legislative clerk there, was that these children needed to find a vocation and to get the education that they needed. So legislation was passed that the students would have to go at least one day a week and be paid to go back to school and to get a vocational education. So he is considered the father of the tech college system. And also, he is the author of the Wisconsin idea. And a lot of people don't know that. So when you look at the reach across our state in terms of not only the UW system, but also the tech college system, it really began in the early 1900s. We are the largest of the 16 tech colleges. The state is divided up into 16 districts, we call them, and MATC is the largest. The whole state has about 380,000 students total. We have over, just on our campus, we have over 40,000 students annually. And that's over 4 campuses and 2 additional sites that we have. We have 9 purpose statements, but our primary mission is occupation, education, and training. We also have a transfer function, a pre-college, which is adult basic ed function, and we also have a corporate learning function as well as other functions. So we're quite a large institution, as you can see. Our current environment, and this is part of the promise of what is happening in our community right now. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the poverty situation, which I'm sure you just read about, as well as through the whole state, and the need for middle skills, which we'll talk about, and looking at the high school graduation rate and the difference between Wisconsin and Milwaukee, and the need to make sure that students complete high school. Math proficiency, we do have a relationship with MPS and UWM. We call it M Cubed, and this was our first initiative to look at math proficiency, because we find that the one thing that holds students back is that they have not completed the math that they need, even our students, from finishing up their diploma or their certificate or their associate degree. What do they have left? Almost math. And so we came together and we say, okay, what does college and career ready math look like? And we're going to make sure that our curriculums are aligned, that our teaching pedagogy is the same, and that we use new and innovative approaches, which we have done. We have found through some pilot programs what seems to work with students who really do not enjoy math, and that they can become proficient at it. And so we've done some flipped classroom sorts of things. And then I'm sure you're familiar with the incarceration rate of black males. And if you really look at the statistics, in Milwaukee, among black men, if they're in their 30s and 40s, at least 50% of them have been incarcerated at some point. And so this is something that we really need to address. We, as a tech college system, have the president's group has come together and said that this is something that we want to address more than we already are. We recently, through the Blueprint for Prosperity, through the governor's office, Fast Forward dollars, we did get some grant money to actually train in CNC. And we were able to do 4 cohorts, and the 3rd cohort was all women. So 14 women started. Said blueprint reading was really difficult, but they were able to get through it with the help of our faculty and support staff, and all 14 graduated. And this is really part of really reaching out and making sure that they have the skills that they can go into the workforce and or continue their education. So in terms of job growth, we all know, and I have to thank Tim Sheehy for this, because he's put this one together, and I think it really shows what the issue is here. I mean, if you really look at the job growth that we're going to see, and this is mainly through retirements and a tiny bit of population growth and in actual job growth, but look at the working age population. Even though it's up slightly in certain groups like Hispanic group, you can really see that by 2023 we're going to have at least 100,000 workers that we're going to be short. And so we have to make sure that every student that we currently have now is at least has a good match with the skill sets that are really needed by the workforce. And so what is MATC going to do to help with the skills gap? Well, the great news is that 51% is the figure that we have here from the National Skills Coalition, but we find it's probably closer to 60% of the future job openings are going to require middle skill jobs, skills, training. And what that means is that they need more than a high school diploma but less than a 4-year degree. And MATC is uniquely positioned, because we do occupational training, to really address what we saw in the manpower study and what we hear from our employers in terms of what their needs are. Most of our students come from our community, and they stay in our community. They tend to really enjoy the experience that they have here, and they want to make sure that we stay here. If you look at this chart, and I don't know if you can see it, but there'll be very few jobs that require just a high school diploma or less, and they will be very low paying. So we have to make sure that more and more of our folks are thinking and are ready for college. They really have to be, and for careers. You've read this, I'm sure. Milwaukee is the second poorest city in America. And we know that. We also know that if you earn an associate degree, you're going to earn about $400,000 more than someone who has just earned a high school diploma, and that number keeps increasing the more education that you get. So we know that in terms of poverty, one of the ways to get out of poverty is to get an education, right, and contribute back in terms of housing and food and so forth. So our current student population, our average age, and this is true of two-year colleges across the country, tend to be older students. And that's why our students come from the community, and they tend to stay here because they have families here, and they usually are working here. We are experiencing more and more of our students, as the economy improved, are going back to work. So we have many students right now. It used to be 75, now it's up to about 85% of our students are only coming to school part-time. We are the largest majority higher educational institution in the state. 58% of our students are students of color. The part-time enrollment is higher than that, and direct from high school. So those coming from direct from high school, as you see, our average age is 30. We were only getting 11%. Most of the young folks were encouraged to go on to a 4-year college. And so what we find is that 40% of our students are economically disadvantaged. And what do we know about economically disadvantaged students nationally? They tend not to want to think about going to college because they think they can't afford it. And so what we are trying to do is to show them that there is a way to go to college, there is a way to have a good future, a good career, and there is a way to get out of poverty, and that is to come to MATC. So this confluence of factors swirling in our community, and I was, and of course, I've heard President Obama's MATC Promise about the free 2-year college. And the Business Journal called me and they said, what do you think of that? I just said, I think it's a great idea, except I don't know how we would pay for it. I don't understand the funding model of that. I know other states were doing it, and so I was attending the AACC, the national convention. That's the American Association of Community Colleges. One of our graduates, our alums, was receiving a national award as Outstanding Alum of the Year. She's also a Marquette alum and a UWM alum. And I was there, and this is true, I accidentally ended up in the Tennessee Promise presentation. I was thinking I was somewhere else. And I sat down and I'm like, oh, I better just stay here. And as they started talking about the promise and how they were going to pay for it, the governor was setting aside $300 million in lottery dollars. I was thinking, I don't think that's going to happen. So what else can we do? I wonder if we could do this individually. And as they started to talk about Last Dollar, it's a Last Dollar program that students would apply for financial aid, and that we would pay the difference, and that's what the state's doing too. So what students are eligible for in terms of Pell Grants nationally and then statewide, in terms of any other state grants that they would be eligible for, that then we would pay the difference. And I started to think, I think we can do this. I think we can do a fundraiser. I just don't know how much that's going to cost us. And so I came back to the college and I said, I really want to do this if it's possible because of all the factors we just talked about. Yeah, my team, I had someone on my team from Kalamazoo, Michigan, where they had already done a Promise, a very different program. We're doing it more like Tennessee is doing it. We're not doing it over 4 years. We're really doing it that senior year. And I just said, how much would this cost us? And I said, I really want to reach out to those students who really didn't think they could ever go to college, because that's the new population that is not going, and I don't know what's happening to them. And we can only imagine what's going on. They're probably going to work, they're not earning very much money, they're still in poverty, and what that all brings with it. So as we started to figure it out, we said, you know what, I think we can do this, and I think the community will support us. I really do. I think that they will help us with this when they really understand how important this is to our community and to the city in particular. So what is the Promise commitment? What are we saying? We'll pay the tuition and fees after all state and federal aid has been applied. So we'll pay all tuition and fees. Students can enroll from, they have to be full-time, so they have to be enrolled at least 12 credits. And the reason we said that is national data shows us that students go full-time tend to finish on time as well. And that's really important, because when employers came to us and they said, well, how many students do you have in the pipeline for welding? Hundreds. Well, when will they finish? We have no idea, because part-time students are in and out with their families, right? And their work situation. So we can't predict when they're going to finish. In this program, we know exactly, when they enter a program, we know if they stay in this program, we know exactly when they're going to finish, and we can tell employers, here's the pipeline, here's how many people are really going to be ready when you need them. We wanted to make sure that they had a 2.0 grade point average, they maintain that, that's with transfer. A C is what you need to transfer to another institution, and we have over 400 transfer agreements. And we have every one of our programs on a career pathway, so students can see where the jobs are, on and off ramps after a certificate, industry certification, technical diploma, associate degree, and then if they want to move on to a 4-year degree, they know exactly where we have those agreements that those credits will count. So we really were thinking they have to at least have a 2.0, so they have a chance to at least transfer if they want to do that. And then we wanted them to give back to the community. We thought that that was an important piece, that they could really appreciate their community and make sure that they were part of the community. And so they have to participate every semester in 8 hours of service learning work. We did get the Carnegie Foundation designation. We are one of the few 2-year colleges in the country that receive this because of the good work we already do in this field. Marquette and UWM, who are good partners with us as well, also received that designation. But in terms of 2 years, we're one of the few that received that, and the only one in the state. How do you become eligible for the Promise? We said, well, it's important that they graduate on time, and that means 4 years. Many students, it takes them a little bit longer to graduate, but we really wanted to make sure that they had a good chance of success, and so we wanted to make sure that they were on time. Their senior year, we said we announced it in September, we said give seniors a chance to work really hard. And if they work really hard that last year, because now they know they can go to college, that they actually have a chance, that they'll work hard, and they have to show it to us by at least getting a 2.0. Their attendance their senior year has to be 90%, and that's below even the MPS standard of 92%. So we said we know that there are life's mitigating issues that they need to deal with, but we do think that they have to understand that coming to college and coming to class leads to success. It's the same thing for work, right? They have to show up for work, right? We're trying to show them that these are important pieces. Minimum score of 16 on the ACT. We right now have a score of 18 that's needed by most of our students. We put 16 here because we did have a consulting group in that told us students who did have a composite score of 16 could still benefit if they got some additional help. So students who did get a 16, we will make sure that they take a summer bridge program so that they are fully ready to start in the fall, because we want to make sure that the students who are in this cohort are really ready to go and will be successful. And then we said we want an expected family contribution of $3,000 or lower, and that's anybody here who's filled out financial aid forms. You know what that means. That means a family of 4 is earning about $48,000. They cannot afford $3,000 towards a child's education. We know that. And so what we said was we'll pay that will pay that difference. We were really looking at most of the students who were on free and reduced lunch program, and so that was quite a few students. That was a pool of about, in our district, about 7,000 students. It's probably higher now. We also wanted to make sure that they met a couple deadlines. One was December 1st, they had to let us know, they had to apply. March 15th, which is coming up, they must have completed their FAFSA form, their financial aid application. Excuse me. We know nationally, and through many studies that have been done, that communities that can really get young people to complete that financial aid form is one of the key barriers to going to college, will have a better chance at having a better educated citizenry. Okay, so we had a goal of 1,000 students. We said, that sounds big, that sounds good. Out of that 7,000, if we could get 1,000, that would be really great. Well, as of today, December 1st, we had 2,969 applicants. And just to give you perspective, the same time last year, the year previous to this, we had 166 direct from high school. So for us, this is a game changer. I mean, this is really a difference. And if you look at the numbers here, MPS is 57%, and all the other high schools in our district are 42, almost 43%, which is really great, because what that means is our suburban schools stepped up as well. And it's really great to see. Probably want to know what some of the type high schools are. Alexander Hamilton had the most applications. Riverside, which is usually considered a college prep. The one I love is Bradley Tech, of course. 98% of the seniors applied. So that just really shows that they are thinking and they understand they really need to continue their education. And also, you see at the end there, Ronald Reagan and South Division and Marshall, James Madison. All right, then you probably wonder, well, what programs do they show an interest in when they applied? And this is where I have to tell you, I thought maybe most of them would be talked into going all into our transfer program. And that did not end up being the case. If you look at our technology and applied science, and I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? So number one was criminal justice. We were not anticipating that. This is our police science program. So with young people, that was pretty gratifying to see that there's an interest in that. And number two was welding. And then in terms of business, we had business management and accounting. And I'm going by memory here. In health, we had nursing and nursing assistant. And in our liberal arts and science, of course, the transfer program, and the good news, teacher education. Because right now, enrollment at all teacher education programs in this city is down. So that was really good news. And then in our media and creative arts, we had animation and design. So it's really gratifying to see where young people are interested in going. But we're going to just double check and make sure that they really understand the field that they're getting into. And so when we do the orientation, we're going to come back and do another check. And we're going to do more hands-on activities, have them come into our labs and make sure that they're in the right area. In my mind, there'd be nothing worse than they start 2 free years and they're in the wrong place. And you know, young people, my son included, had all these different majors. It was exploring those first 2 years. That's not what we want here. We want them to be pretty sure that they have an interest in the area. At the same time we launched the Promise, we also launched fundraising, and this is the goal of 1 million is I can sleep at night number. And because when we looked at the number, the amount that we would need if every single student came and if every single student needed the 3,000, this was the goal. Now, what we've raised so far is about 626 or 28,000 of that, and mostly by individuals. which has really been great. And we had some, as you can see, from our giving campaign, and we are beginning to look at having an endowment. And the reason is I really want to see this program at least a decade to really see some real change in our community and to really see the belief of young people that I can go to college, I can afford to, in fact, I'm expected to. And so as you see, that's what's next for us. What we have decided is that, looking at all our data, that on average, it costs, in terms of the difference between the federal and state grants, about $1,500 for 2 years for each student. So it's $700 per year. And that seems really doable for this community. And we're not just going to bring them in and it's not going to be business as usual. We're going to make sure that we have comprehensive wraparound services. We've already garnered great support for our mentoring program. Over 500 of our own employees have stepped up and said, we're going to make sure that we're available to these students so that when they come on campus, they don't get lost. We also have academic and career advising. We have just tutoring, early alert. We have just a whole, in fact, we have 6 pages of support services that we intend to offer to these students to make sure that they, in fact, are successful. And what we realized, too, and even our current students, they're like, how many young people are we going to have on campus? And they said, it's going to be really loud. And we said, yes, it probably will be. That's great. But what we also realized is we are so used to teaching older students that we're probably going to have to look at how do we treat young people. And so there's a lot of literature out there, there's a lot of experience about how do we teach differently with younger students and with low-income students. And we just announced to the high schools that we are now going to open this up to the junior class as well. And where we eventually want to go is to get into elementary and middle school so we can tell them it's ready, it's here for you. So, how can you get involved? Share information. I thought we had gotten the word out, but as it turns out, a lot of people aren't even aware that this program exists. And every time we go out and we share it with parents in particular, they're amazed at this program and how it could benefit their children. So if you do know someone out there who could benefit from this, please get them to MATC as soon as possible. We know that we're also going to have to do more job shadowing, internships, and mentorships for our students. I was hoping that we could do, as part of the promise, that they could also have a paid internship. So we're opening up more of our positions and we're creating more student positions on our own campus so that these students can get that experience, but we'd also like them to be out into the world of work, because we think what they're getting in terms of the education we're offering, as well as the experience they get from an internship, would really help them to get ready and be successful once they enter the workforce. And even if they decide to go on and transfer, it's still a really valuable, good experience. And as Mark Sablejack said, write a check and help us keep the promise. Are there any questions? Well, we're reaching out to foundations and to our alums and to our vendors and to the employers in our community. And so we continue that process of going out and seeking more funding. Yes, we're short, but we do think we're going to get there. We don't have that much more to go. Now, when we do our endowment, that's going to be a lot more. And we'll know a lot more in terms of how many students actually come in from that almost 3,000 students who actually complete their financial aid and what their real needs are, and then how many years we have to go out. But that endowment campaign is upcoming, and we're going to have to put together the numbers for that and then go raise a lot more money so that it can be maintained long term. Luckily, because our tuition is lower, our students don't have as much debt, and so it varies. But our average student debt is between $20,000 and $40,000 at max. Most of our students graduate because most of them are eligible for some sort of financial aid or scholarship. Most of our students are around the $6,000 to $10,000 range, which is good. But I mean, I would like them to be debt free, is what I would like. That would be my goal. That's a great question. The technical college system has a process by which we can't just start any program that we would like. So we have to go through quite a rigorous process of determining the employer need in our district. So each of us, so it could turn out that there's a lot of jobs in Waukesha County, but Waukesha County Tech is out there taking care of the needs of those employers. So we look at Milwaukee County and Ozaukee County and we say, what are the needs of the employers? Where are the jobs? And then what we do is we go through a process by looking at what their needs are. For example, as part of M7, they talked about food manufacturing as being a need among the employers to make sure that they had a skilled workforce. And so what we did is we looked at that and we did a surveys and we said, oh yes, in fact there's a number of jobs there. We went out and then developed a curriculum, which was to talk to all of them, what are the skill sets you're looking for. We were able then to put together a technical diploma and an associate degree, and we also had a transfer partner as well. Because you need to get more into the food science, maybe as that is one area, or the food manufacturing could be another area, and we had all kinds of other certificates. And we hired a faculty member then to go out and to try to do some, find where those students would be in terms of the training that they needed. And then we look at the equipment that we need to make sure that we have it so that we're in alignment with the industry, and that in fact when we graduate a student that they have got the skill sets that the employers are looking for. So we do a really good process. It's very rigorous, and we look at our programs on a regular basis to make sure, in fact, that those programs are still needed. For example, we found a number of years back that we didn't need our printing program anymore, and so we stopped doing that. And we have a number of other programs that we have put on hiatus because the jobs just aren't there and the employer demand isn't there. What we sometimes find is there's great employer demand, and there's not a lot of students, or we find out there's a lot of students and there isn't great employer demand, and that's that mismatch that's going on. And so we're trying to do a better job of explaining that on both sides. To students, here's where the jobs are, and to employers, like how can we work together to find out where that pipeline of students can come from. Well, it's normally in the faculty area, because when, of course, we had fewer students, after the recession, when everybody went back to work, we found out that we didn't need as many faculty in certain areas because we had fewer students. So now we're going to have to ramp back up in certain areas, as you saw, where there's high demand by the students, and where there's employer demand as well. So it'll be in the faculty area, and there may be some staffing that we need to increase as well. But because we had ramped up so much during the recession, we still have a lot of the same staff there. And so they do have capacity for the short term, and we'll look and see what they need, and then we'll, depending on what our resources are and what grants are available to us, we'll have to expand as we need to. Yeah, we'll take a percentage, and we have our about 4% of whatever the total amount is what we'll use. And that's what some of our sister institutions have already gone out, and they have a little bit different formula than we do, and they have a little bit different student population in terms of eligibility, and that's what they're doing as well. They're looking at a percentage of what total amount they were raising, and that should be able to then to see those students for each of the cohorts that go through. Oh, sure. The for-profits have closed down, and what benefit, if any, have we seen? Well, let's talk about Everest. For example, they were a little bit like a block away from us on campus downtown. And when they left, they were designated basically as a health and an allied science, a little bit of nursing in there as well. And so we leased that building because we needed to expand our healthcare. And so we were able to go in. The hard part about a lot of the students, they had used up all of their financial aid. And so when they came back to us, it was totally, and even loans. I mean, they were really in a dire situation. And so we tried with some scholarships and some other things, but we tried to reach out to as many of those students as we can. And they were not accredited, we're accredited by the Higher Learning Commission, as are all of our sister institutions who we work with. That was a really tough situation, but I guess the benefit is we were able to fulfill what the desire was originally of that that for-profit, and we were able to go in there and pick up where they left off, but I think in a way more responsibly in terms of what we offered and the cost of what we offered. Very affordable.
Thank you, Vicki. I think we all enjoyed the presentation about what MATC is up to and the MATC Promise. It's a tremendous program. As you know, Vicki, as a Rotary member, we've been an international leader in the effort to eradicate polio, and in the last 30 years, we've immunized over 2.5 billion kids around the world. So the disease, we are right on the cusp of eliminating that disease. So we'll be making a donation in your name to the Rotary Foundation so that 50 additional children will receive a dose of the vaccine. So thank you again. I'd like to welcome Matt and Joe to Rotary. Thanks to Pat and Janine for bringing them in. Remember, that's all our obligation. We all have to bring in new members to our club. Following our adjournment, History and Current Events meets in room 411, and Recruitment in Admissions will meet in room 413. That's it. We're adjourned. I hope everyone gets to wherever they're going safely.
An MCM production.